If you're struggling financially with your health, with your confidence, mentally, you owe it to yourself to fast track and 10x that aspect of your life to become better. A huge part of being human is community, it's connection. There is simply no argument to match that humans who have a good level of self-accountability and then external accountability do better. You've got one life. So if you don't achieve that goal and you find yourself in the same position this time next year, how are you going to think about yourself? I've always found it really interesting when I hear people say, I need more willpower. I just need to be a little bit more disciplined, because they talk about it as if it's a trait, like a personality trait. Let's say like being funny. I just need to be more funny. You don't really find people saying that because it's almost just the way that they are. I suppose if you wanted to work really hard at getting funnier or getting more comical, you could do, but it kind of is something that is just your natural ability or your natural amount that you have. And that's actually what willpower is. Everybody has a certain amount of willpower, but it's a depletable resource, like energy. That's exactly what willpower is, like money. We have different amounts at different times, and that is completely normal. So because of that, sometimes we need a little bit more support with regard to activities that require willpower. Now, if you're in a journey that you're wanting to improve your health, your fitness, or just succeed at whatever in life, you're going to need a good amount of willpower, a good amount of effort. But it's a depletable resource. So you might not always have a lot. And therefore, actually having more when you need it can be quite useful. So where do you get it from, right? Do you generate more willpower? Well, that's going to be pretty freaking hard to do when you're exhausted at the end of a really tough day, when you're going through some really difficult circumstances, personally or emotionally. And that's why we need to lean on accountability. Now, the conversation today is regarding how can you actually hold yourself more accountable? And how can we kind of override a low amount of willpower to still get shit done, even when it's tough? There is an extent to which you're going to be able to improve your self-accountability. And this is something I found myself reflecting on recently, because certain actions that I know make me feel good, I hadn't been doing due to a lack of willpower, I suppose. And then also falling out of routine, circumstances changing. We can sing all the excuses that we want, but I just knew these behaviors not making me feel amazing. And I want to do the behaviors that make me feel amazing. So when it comes down to self-accountability, how can we strategize that in a way that feels pretty effortless? Because if holding yourself accountable comes down to, I need to sit with myself and have a meeting and go through all these spreadsheets, like, oh my God, no one wants to do that with anyone, not with their boss, not with their partner. Why would you want to do it with yourself? Of course you wouldn't. So I then leaned on, how can self-accountability become fun? And one of the first things that I did was identify, how do I want to feel? And you guys will have heard me hear it. You would have heard me say it a million times before, which is reverse engineer the habits that you need to start doing on a daily basis to get to how you want to feel. So I wanted to wake up feeling energized. I wanted to feel a little bit less bloated. I was having some GI upset, some gastrointestinal issues after eating a fair amount more food for this half marathon prep. I also wanted to feel smarter, to be honest. I wanted to feel like I'd given effort to my goal of reading more and educating more this year. And so waking up feeling rested, the first thing that I needed to do was make sure that I'm not doom scrolling in the evening. I'm eliminating blue light. I'd found myself getting into this habit of watching like vlogs and YouTube videos from certain athletes that I just find incredible. That's all very well and good, but it was impacting my sleep. And I was cheating myself out of the knowledge gains that I wanted this year through reading more. So, okay, I set the habit. No devices 1 hour before bed, and then read at least 30 pages in a day. And the majority of those I will do pre-bed as well. So those are already a couple of habits. Then another habit, stop eating 2.5 hours before bed, because that allows for better digestion. I wake up not feeling bloated, because if you eat right before sleep, you're going to not be able to digest that food optimally, and you'll wake up feeling like you're in your third trimester. So those were the decisions that I had made. And how did I gamify it? Well, I just downloaded a habit tracking app. I can't necessarily remember which one. If you want to know, just drop me a message on Instagram. Link is in the description box. And this one is really cool because it's almost like every single time you tick the habit, it populates a tiny square and there's 365 squares. So if I stick to these habits every single day of the year, then by the end of the year, I'll see how much of this square has been colored in. And for me, I thought that was really cool. I'm a very visual person. So I love making sure at the end of the day that I've ticked off my squares. Again, if you make it like a video game, it becomes easier to do. Then also doing it in a way that feels constructive and fun to you. I think a lot of us can hold ourselves accountable in a way that isn't particularly enjoyable. If you're someone who's massively impacted by your scale weight and you feel negative emotions, if you see that scale weight fluctuate or start to trend upwards, then why not shift your check-in method with yourself to be, I'm going to put on one pair of jeans every 2 weeks on a Friday morning. It's in my diary and I'm going to see how that feels, or how much my jeans are looser on me. Or you could use a tape measure, for example. So there's different means to how we can make checking in with ourselves a bit more fun. However, one thing that I have to just stress here is that also these processes of checking in with yourself and holding yourself accountable require effort. They require what is known as willpower. Now, you're going to be less likely to want to do these check-in processes, let's say after a really tough day, when you've been incredibly busy. For instance, I had realized yesterday that for the past 2 days, I hadn't actually ticked off my habits. Even though I'd stuck to them, because I've now gone back into the routine that serves me well, I forgot to tick them off. And that is down to self-accountability. Because there is no external medium to prompt me and say, hey, remember, you need to reflect on this, or you should be doing these actions and behaviors to get you to where you want to be. Which is why I personally believe that there is room for self-accountability and it's required, but it simply cannot override the human need for external accountability. There is simply no argument to match that humans who have a good level of self-accountability and then external accountability do better. And in today's day and age, it's awesome because that external accountability does not have to be another human. As I've spoken about, we've got different means of technology now, and those AI-generated means are quite simply phenomenal. If you wanted to get AI to send you a prompt to reflect on how your week has gone and what you've achieved, that is absolutely something you can do. You can now start to use AI to remind you, to ask you the appropriate questions. You could put in your data of your body weight. You could put in your data of how much effort you've been putting in your food, any type of metrics that you want into ChatGPT or another AI software, and it can do predictions for you on when you can expect to get to where you want to be. And you can even say, hey, this is what I need. If you ask AI to be a coach for you and say from an emotional perspective what you need, it can provide you that. Say, hey, I'm feeling really demotivated. I feel like I need a bit of a pep talk. Or, hey, I'm feeling really excited about this journey, but I'm a little bit worried if actually I'm losing body fat at a too fast rate. Now, why am I telling you this as a coach? Literally, our business, Team CBM, is to generate freaking incredible results, both physically, mentally, for any women that choose to work with us and to significantly improve their health. Well, it's because you actually need to know and have the knowledge of which questions to ask AI. And so if you don't know what questions to ask, you're going to be stuck in a position where you're not actually able to get the most out of it. And aside from not being able to get the most out of it, you've also got something to consider, which is there is no emotional connection with AI. Let's say you were to get that prompt come through. What would happen is on a bad day where you don't really feel like answering, you could very much so just ignore it. You don't necessarily have to answer that prompt. Whereas if it's a human who's on the other end of the phone, let's say I texted you and I said, hey, how's your training been going this week? and you didn't answer, you'd still see that notification and know that it's unread and know that there's a human on the other end of it. And then maybe you ignore me for a couple of days, but it's kind of playing on the back of your mind. And I message you and say, hey, like, why are you ignoring me? I'm trying to help you. Why aren't you getting back to me? And again, it is that human element of the fact that you are emotionally tied to other humans in society, because a huge part of being human is community, it's connection. And it is that social bond that you will never be able to have with a robot. I'm sure that there will be some situations where there are examples of people that have formed relationships with robots, but the general consensus and the general human psychology will know that it has no substitute for a human taking care of you and wanting to support you. So ultimately, you will do better at everything in life if you have a connection with a human who's invested in your journey, who cares about you, who understands the correct questions to ask you and the correct challenges to provide you with. I have been coaching for up to 5 years now. And in that time, in Team CBM, we've worked with over 1,000 people to get them phenomenal results, life-changing results. And you can imagine, right? If you listen to my long form content, if you listen to my podcast, you read my Instagram posts, you watch my YouTube videos, you know that I have a master's degree in chemistry and that I used to be a nuclear scientist for the UK government. You are probably going to know, wow, that really sounds like I'm like, listen to me, I have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. And that is why I still invest in coaches. I still have coaches in so many different domains of my life because there is always more to learn. And I always want to feel like I am the least smart person in the room or one of the least smart people, because then I'm in the right room where I can learn from other people and know more. So recently, when I was analyzing what do I want my life and my goals to look like after this half marathon, which I'm 2 days out from, what are my goals? And how would I best put the protocols together from training, nutrition, habits in order to achieve that? And I can promise you right now, if you are a busy, career-driven woman and you know that your inability to lose the body fat that you want to lose is stopping you from living a confident, successful life, then hear me out. We have just launched our Fat Loss Accelerator program, which is made specifically for women who are constrained for time, yet they want to lose anywhere between 10 to 25 pounds of body weight within 90 days. Throughout this process, we're also going to teach you exactly what you need to know so that you can maintain this result forever, that it's the lifestyle changes and the habits that you need to implement for the rest of your life to finally become that confident and successful woman who excels in all areas of her life. So if you're interested in finding out more about our Fat Loss Accelerator program, then send me a message on Instagram. Send me the words Fat Loss Accelerator. My Instagram is Millie@TeamCBM. The link is in description below, and I will get back to you with all the information that you need to know. Back to the episode. That I could put together the training plan and the nutrition plan that, after all of my research, I believe is best. However, it's what I believe is best. It's not what someone with a huge amount of experience with themselves and then their hundreds of or thousands of clients in the past has actually learned. Because sometimes the information in application is not correct. And it's not adapted to you. And this is my point, which is AI does not have the experience of working with thousands of people across different domains of performance, sport, medical conditions, different ages, different genders, different cultures, different countries. AI doesn't know what it's like to work with tons of individuals, and plenty of whom have the similar circumstances to you. But a coach with tons of experience and connections to other phenomenal coaches does have that. And therefore, they're going to be able to not only create better protocols for you, they're going to understand how to put them into application. They're going to know the points at which you might struggle or might need some support. and they're going to be able to ask the right questions, challenge you, but then adapt according to what's required. And this coaching adaptability in Team CBM, we call it micro coaching. It's where not only are you given the plan that you need to get to where you want to be, but then throughout the week, depending on your feedback, how your week has been going, how you're feeling, where your health is, what the priorities are, have they shifted that week? Through us speaking and understanding you as a whole, we will then change what the expectations are or what your protocols are. So unless you have someone of that caliber checking in with you frequently, it's going to be really freaking hard to optimize your results and get what you need. And you could say to AI, message me every single day and tell me what to do in this situation. But again, that is artificial. There's no emotional bond and connection there. And honestly, I just really don't believe that even with all the knowledge that AI can provide, that it's actually going to give you power. Because only someone who knows you and has that experience and that level of breadth of knowledge and adaptation for clients is going to be able to know exactly what you need and to optimize everything for you. So my point goes back to, I found myself thinking, what do I do moving forwards? Even though I'm at this point now where I have so much knowledge and I could create a plan that I think is best. And I said, I know exactly what is going to get me better results, how I'm going to be able to be more accountable, and how I'm going to be able to learn faster. And that's through another human. That's through another coach. And I've said this so many times. I've got coaches and mentors for all different domains of my life. And I've never, ever regretted having that support, because the accountability, it's ridiculous when you have someone message you who really cares about you saying, hey, how about this? Or you should probably do this, or I would recommend this. How's things going? Are you okay? That support is something to really thrive from. And if you don't thrive from that, it's important to understand your personality type, because everyone will get on to an extent with the accountability and support from a human, but it also has to be in a form that's delivered best to you, whether that's having a chat with someone or whether it's just touching base every so often through a text. And that's also where that self-awareness of who you're like as a person. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Are you mixed? Do you thrive well from constructive feedback, or do you need someone to actually say, hey, come on, like get your ass in gear? So knowing yourself as well allows you to then have the right type of support or the right type of coach, which again, the robot, you would have to train the robot how to be. Whereas with a human, you just find the human that you gel with the most. There's a reason why you're not friends with a lot of people, right? And there's a reason why you have a few selective friends, and it's because they know you, they know your personality. And the same thing goes with the correct mentor. The correct type of mentor could be the yin to your yang, or they could be very much so similar to you. And the really important thing to mention here is financial investment makes a huge difference to willpower. The correlation between the people who invest into their result, the way that you will see willpower go up, is very interesting. So I know I said it's a depletable resource, but you will have a lot more willpower or energy to do something when you know that there is the sunk cost effect, the risk of losing money. So why do people show up to PT sessions? 80% of the time, it's not for what they're going to learn. It's for the fact that it's sat there as an appointment in their diary. And if they don't go, they're going to let someone down. That could be the emotional cost, but they're also going to lose money. And it's been scientifically shown in several studies that humans hate losing money more than gaining money. People really do not like having money go to waste, because if we're going to put a visual representation of it, it's like throwing dollars down the toilet and pressing flush. And you've had to work hard for those resources. So not only have you had energy go into those resources to create those resources, but then you're flushing those down the toilet, going to waste. Not to mention the financial cost it almost feels as something to be proud of. As humans, we all have egos, right? We all have an ego that in some way we're striving to stroke or satisfy. And it feels empowering, it feels powerful to know that you've gone and worked really freaking hard. And then you've put those resources, those hard earned resources, into a process or into someone where you have to then work extra hard to get the result out of it. And this comes back around to that dopamine cycle, which is humans have the most powerful servings of dopamine delivered when the process has required work. So when you've not only worked for that money, but then you've given that money to someone else who's then told you to go and do a whole lot more fucking work, and then you get the result that you wanted. Because there's been so much work, so much effort put into that, the feeling afterwards is euphoric. And I can say this from a perspective of, in the past, I've invested money into mentors, and I don't want to necessarily advise this, but that's how hungry I was for the result, which is I gave them money that I didn't even have, or my last pennies. Actually, I've done this several times. And I've known that it's a do or die trying moment, because when you've given someone all of the resources that you have, or as much of the resources as possible that you can give them, for them to help you get to a better position in life, and they tell you what work you need to go and do, you best believe you're not going to miss a beat. Because then you're more so in like a survival mode. If I don't make this work, then what will happen? Right? Because it means that much to you. Wow. Now that I reflect on that, I've spent a lot of time in that phase over the past few years of my life, because I've wanted the thing so badly. But also having that amount of money go to waste, and then not only that amount of money go to waste, but then to be found in a position where I have no resources because I haven't done the work to help me then get more resources, it would have just been the biggest possible failure that you ever could have imagined, right? So when you put enough skin in the game, you almost have no choice but to make it work. And you can't really do this with self-accountability. You could give money to a friend and say, hey, if I don't achieve this goal, then, take this £5,000 and give it to this charity. But then you've also got to trust, like, will that friend actually do that? Because if you said to them, hey, here's my last £5,000, here's everything that I have, here's all of my savings. If I don't achieve this fat loss goal by the end of the year, then give this money to charity. Would someone that will like actually do that? Like, there's actually platforms online where you can do it, and they will do, like, they request proof and evidence and stuff like that. It's a whole different ballgame when you look into that kind of stuff. But my point is that doing it by yourself is really challenging. And actually, by putting money into a process and putting emotional investment into a process, you will always get such better results. The reason why I realized I was doing myself a huge disservice was because even though I had the knowledge to be training myself and to be setting my habits and intentions, I was scrimping out on progress, because I know that progress comes 100-fold better when there's someone on the other end of it invested in my journey and when I've paid money. And now it gets to the point where I'm almost like looking to see who I can pay next. Like, I genuinely am in certain domains of my life looking to see who I can give money to. And trust me, it doesn't feel fun. It's not like, there's just this huge reserve of cash to give to anyone and everyone that I can learn from. It's an investment. Like, an investment does not feel comfortable, right? An investment really does not feel comfortable, because most of the time when you're investing into something, you're giving a good chunk of your hard-earned resources. And so that investment, it has to feel slightly challenging, because if it doesn't, then it doesn't matter enough. And I've had it actually where we've had people who are incredibly wealthy come to us for coaching, and it feels like, they've dropped a $5 note whilst walking to their favorite coffee shop when they've paid that money. And that's great for them, perhaps because they've got a phenomenal amounts of financial abundance. But it actually does matter, because if that money wasn't significant to them, they don't care if they lose it. So actually caring if you lose that money matters. It really matters. And I can promise you that if you've ever had any type of mentor, be it a fitness coach, be it personal trainer, perhaps you've had a therapist, a counselor, maybe a financial advisor, anyone who's taught you anything, imagine if it seemed like you were just giving them a few pennies every single time that you learned from them, or as a monthly subscription. Would you really care if you weren't doing the work? Because you'd be like, oh, whatever, I'm not really that focused. It's not really costing me much anyway. And that is the whole problem. How much is it costing you in terms of emotional pain and in terms of financial resources? So you need to make the cost high for your emotional cost to not achieve the goal. And only you can do that by painting the picture of what life looks like in 6 months' time, in a year's time, if you haven't achieved the goal. God forbid you want to spend too much time pondering on that, because it's stark. You've got one life. So if you don't achieve that goal and you find yourself in the same position this time next year, how are you going to think about yourself? And that's a year that you've wasted. So that emotional cost, you can ponder on that as much as you want. But then the financial cost, you will know what money you're losing. And I have this happen often. Where I think when sometimes there's people who are disengaged in the process, and I think if this service cost 2, 3, 5 times more, they would be more engaged. Because I can promise you, a lot of the time, the people that we work with who believe that it's a bigger financial investment genuinely get more out of it because of the sunk cost effect. And I can tell you now, hand on heart, that when I've made investments into my development as a business owner and as a leader that has nearly bankrupted me, I didn't sleep for several weeks and months at a time to get the business to where it is today. And it's not something that I share openly, and maybe I should share some of that more, but it feels comfortable and right too in this moment, because I'm so grateful I did that. And I'm so grateful I put myself in that level of discomfort. And I had the weight of the world on my shoulders trying to get through that. But if it didn't matter that much, I don't know whether I would have tried as hard or worked as fast to get to where I am now. So you might have, clicked on this podcast hoping to find out how you can hold yourself more accountable and how you're able to get the shit done that you haven't been getting done. And it might not have been what you were expecting, which is, yeah, you can gamify certain things, you can set certain habits, certain actions, but the science proves time and time again, there is nothing, not even AI technology, that beats having a human who knows more than you, who really freaking cares about you, invested in your journey. And you invest into them. This is undeniable research that has been done time and time and time again. So genuinely, you want to 10x your results, and you want to put 10x effort in, you want to have 10x willpower, invest into yourself, invest into someone that can support you to get you to where you want to be. And I will forever, maybe there'll be a day where I'm like the oracle of wisdom and willpower. Maybe one day, who knows? But I genuinely believe that for the rest of my life, in all different aspects of life, for my mindset, for my fitness, sports, just wherever I can, finances, spirituality, there will be mentors teaching me more, and I'll be investing into it because that's how I'll genuinely get the most out of those parts of my life. And why do I do that? Why do I record these podcasts? Why do I do what I do? It's to create a life that's worth living for me, to follow my sense of purpose, but also for everyone else to live a happier, longer life that is freaking worth getting out of bed for. And if you're struggling financially, if you're struggling with your health, if you're struggling with your confidence, if you're struggling mentally, you owe it to yourself to fast track and 10x that aspect of your life to become better. And you do that by investing into a mentor. Thank you for tuning in, guys. If you enjoyed this one, again, I ask you so politely, please leave a rating, please leave a comment, let me know your thoughts. The more support that this podcast gets, the more people it's going to reach, the more people it's going to help. And that is you doing a good thing, putting a good thing into this world. It's a very small thing to do, and it goes a huge way. So thank you for tuning in. Go crush it. You deserve it.